Hello, beautiful strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Sakura no Mori Dreamers. When last we left off, Flexo got crushed by a steel girder, but unfortunately, there was no bender to get it off of him. What a bad day for Flexo. Anyway, oh right, we also didn't mention the new character that we met, or, the ghost that we're trying to find. I don't think at all, really. I could be misremembering at least about the ghost. No, I might be misremembering, period. It's been a day. But yeah, let's get back into it, shall we? The next day. The classroom looked full yesterday, but an empty seat obviously stood out today. You were looking at Tono's seat yesterday too. You in love with her or something? I silently shook my head, but I couldn't ignore it regardless of what my classmates thought. Then I realized someone was staring at me. I'm also being stared at by a cat. Anyway, cat is staring at me from across the room. Oh well. Kirito gave me a barely perceptible smile. I didn't even know where her seat was until now. What are you doing? I have no clue what she is doing. As she turned her gaze back to the blackboard, I ended up looking over at that direction too. The classroom was always loud and boisterous before homeroom started. Some students chatted, some were glued to their smartphones. The few serious ones were busy preparing for class, and the last few spent their time bullying others. However, Kirito seemed completely detached from that atmosphere. It was as though she existed in a separate dimension. For starters, her posture was different. Don't talk about my posture. It's horrible. Both her back and neck stood straight as an arrow. I'd never seen anyone like that in school before. I would like to sit back in my chair, but I can't. I have to lean forward very, very slightly so I can talk into the microphone correctly. And because when I'm leaning back, I tend to kind of slouch, and if I do that, my microphone will be in the way and I won't be able to see my monitor. Anyway, her legs were arranged close together, with her palms neatly folded on top of them. She faced forward without really looking at anything. So, it's sort of implying that she has, what's the word? I mean, I know that manners is a thing, but there's a, finishing school type education, I believe. I think there's a Japanese term for that, or maybe it was the Chinese term that I used to know. I don't remember. I don't remember the term either, so, you know. I'm 0 for 2 on that one. Well, there was the blackboard, but there was nothing on it yet. In short, she really stood out. But it didn't seem like she was isolated either. The girls passing by to their own seats were greeting her like anyone else. Somehow, she stood out without really doing anything in particular. I seriously wondered just how I could have not noticed her before. Okay, to your seats, everyone. Sukana began taking attendance. I have been informed that Tono-kana will be absent for some time. Hushed voices rose all across the classroom. Huh? Why? The school wasn't told the details, but that was what her parents told us. What are you saying? Just that she's not feeling well. It sounded like they haven't discovered her body yet. Most parents probably wouldn't assume their daughter was dead, or even want to consider the idea unless they had a corpse right in front of them. I tried calling her yesterday, but she didn't pick up. You did? I see. I guess I'll try having the school contact her. Then someone said, maybe she got spirited away or something. It was likely meant as a joke, but the classroom fell silent. And then intense murmuring ensued. A lot of people go missing in Sakura no Mori lately, don't you think? The young wife that lived next to us suddenly disappeared. My parents said it was probably some sort of affair, but... Yeah, it happens a lot lately. I heard some first year's PE clothes got stolen the other day. That doesn't sound like it's got anything to do with this. I'll keep an eye on this, so please don't worry about it for the time being. Anyway, it's time for me to take attendance. I thought about the earlier remark during the homeroom. It wasn't just accidents and incidents. It was another weird occurrence plaguing Sakura no Mori lately. People were just disappearing. Of course, that happened everywhere, just like accidents and incidents. But the unusual part about Sakura no Mori was, yet again, the sheer frequency. That happened unproportionately often, apparently. These didn't really get reported as much on TV, so I didn't know the exact number, but still, we could tell it wasn't low just from the disproportional amount of rumors and gossip. And locals like us don't have much trouble distinguishing whether those were unfounded or not. I personally knew of a bunch of people who had disappeared. The only common trait up between them was that they all disappeared without telling anyone anything. And they didn't seem to have a clear reason to do so. As such, a word like spirited away came back into use in our town. The ones left behind would submit missing reports to the police, but they didn't really put much effort into these kind of low-key cases. That's insane to me that people would go missing and the police would do fuck all. Because I mean, where I live, especially if it's somebody younger, if a high school student went missing where I live, because I've seen this before, they appear on the news, like missing without a trace, nothing. They will literally be on the nightly news, and that's not even an exaggeration. It genuinely is. And I would imagine that that's like that for most. I mean, I don't live in a huge city, but it's, decent size, more than 1 million people. Actually, I think it's more than 5 million, but I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong. It's at least 1 or 2 million, at least. I don't care enough to look it up, and because I don't want to think about that. But yeah, that's something, at least in the area. I don't know. It's just weird to me that it's not reported. Or not reported, that it's considered to be low-key or doesn't really put much effort. And then again, I also listen to, I don't do it as much nowadays, because I don't listen to podcasts quite as much as I used to, and when I do, I typically listen to comedy stuff. But I've listened to a lot of true crime stuff, and you'll hear missing person reports, and there's at least some kind of cursory investigation in all but the shittiest of police departments. And especially in the more interesting ones, you'll hear about, well, they're missing. We have this fuckload of evidence that's, mostly circumstantial. And never mind. I'm going into too much. I'm thinking too hard about this. Wait. I alone knew that Tono was no longer alive. And now people were speculating she'd been spirited away. Could that mean... The noise level in the classroom shot up immediately as the teacher left after the final homeroom. A single girl confidently strolled up to my desk as everyone else was busily running their mouths. Well then, I suppose it's time for us to depart. Yeah. The people around us seemed startled to see her addressing me. Oh, Kirito, asked him out yourself? I heard some of the guys saying something along those lines. Did they? Just talking to a guy made her into the center of attention. It seemed like she was special after all. She waited as I prepared to leave with no change in her expression. About Tono, she began as soon as we left the classroom, not even mentioning what just ensued in the classroom. Do you think she just disappeared? Mr. Sukata didn't elaborate, but I nodded. That's likely. But why did you think that? Well, I guess the idea was thrown around in the classroom. It's for the same reason as everyone else. There have been a lot of unexplained disappearances in Sakura no Mori lately. There's no reason not to, but some people just up and vanish one day. You know, this is actually reminding me of, like, back in basically probably about 91, 92-ish. You could just kind of go somewhere else and disappear. And you could do it post that, but you could just kind of drop everything and leave. Because, like I mentioned with just into true crime stuff, not frequently, but you would hear stories of people that, you know, dropped everything and just left. I actually have a family member I've heard of. I've not met. I'm not really interested to, but they essentially were married. I think he was in his early 30s. He basically, in the mid 70s, just left, took his, I think it was a truck or a Jeep or something like that, and left. Went to, let me count states. Went to South Dakota. He went to South Dakota and started a new life. It wasn't found out until like the mid 90s, and there was missing person reports and everything around here. I seen the newspaper clippings from the time. Well, clippings. Family members didn't keep clippings after they found out that he was in South Dakota with a new family and new kids, and he left because he just didn't care anymore. I'm going off topic. The expression "spirited away" might indeed be the perfect way to describe it. That was the way I was thinking from the start, though it was your behavior that got me initially interested, just like I said. I do appreciate the fact that you have a serious expression. I didn't think it was anything beyond her skipping class at first, but little by little, I got curious about Tono after I saw her ghost. But as I'd guessed, Kirito didn't. I could tell from her reaction in Forza. My suspicious behavior might have been the trigger, but Kirito must have sensed something was amiss from the very beginning. When I stared at her seat, everyone in class started assuming I was dating her. Didn't you hear them? I did. That person, whose name I forgot, said something along those lines in a very loud voice. And you didn't pause to think that might be it? Was that actually it? Not really. This girl was definitely a bit on the odd side. I'm just saying, my desk there. I'm just saying it wouldn't have been odd to think that, or rather that would have been the most natural assumption to make. Yet, you never even paused to think whether that was the case. In other words, you must have suspected something different from the very start. You're pretty sharp. Kirito took out her fan and flicked it open in front of her. You're exactly right. I suspected she'd been spirited away from the very beginning. I was thinking about it for a while now and ended up conflating a potentially simple absence with it entirely. Why were you thinking about it? Isn't that something we should leave to the police? It's not really a problem a mere student should be thinking about. The police... The corner of Kirito's lips curled up slightly. You really think we can trust them? I didn't know how to answer her. Well, I suppose the police wouldn't put all their effort into a mere missing persons case. Yes, that's exactly the problem. Still, I would think, at least here in the States, if you having serial cases of missing people, you would probably have the FBI after a certain point just investigating, because that's a problem. Again, I'm thinking a bit too hard into it, I'm sure. Kirito flicked her fan. Grandpa, my grandfather said so too. There's how many people do you think are missing in this country? There are so many that no one investigates them unless they're obviously connected to some sort of incident. Is that actually true about Japan? I don't know. I know that, at least in the States, you get, again, and at least the places that I know of, you get at least cursory investigations unless it's, well, something very specific. But even still, if I'm thinking too hard about this. So most of these cases pretty much end the moment you submit a report to the police. That may be so, but you didn't answer my question. Are you planning to do their job? I'm not sure how to put it. Kirito fell silent. What about you, Fukigami? I think you're the one who's trying to do the police's job. This time, it was my turn to be silent. Come to think of it, yesterday we split up just as we were talking about this. Looks like you've got a secret you don't want others to know. That sounded like she had one as well. I suddenly realized we were standing in front of Forza. I think it's either Forza or Forza. I don't remember. My Italian pronunciations are at best rusty. Oh, she responded as well. How interesting. Now the question is, did she respond to Shinji, or did she respond because she can see this lovely, lovely visual in front of us? I gasped, and so did she. After a second's delay, we exchanged looks. Eh? Huh? Instead of going inside the restaurant, we took a sharp turn and, as per Kirito's suggestion, headed to the park. I liked that, Sakura pedal effect that it had going on. I wish it would keep doing that. That was nice. Oh. I never get tired of looking at cherry blossoms around this time. She glanced around the park and happily narrowed her eyes. While she may have come off as stern looking at first sight, that impression definitely changed when she smiled. Have you tried to enjoy the cherry blossom viewing, Fukigami? Yeah, I was out here with my family last Sunday. What about you? Me too. I come here with my family and dojo students. Dojo? Interesting. Dojo students? Kirito nodded, but didn't explain. I like cherry blossoms, but then everyone drinks too much and it starts getting out of hand, and yeah, I do want to see cherry blossoms blossoming. I have seen a cherry blossom tree. There's a Japanese garden near-ish to where I live. I think it's like a 45-minute drive or an hour drive or something like that. Not too bad, because it's basically hop on the freeway and just go. It's not like you have to go and dig around through neighborhood streets, and it's basically get on from where I live like right off of the freeway, jump on the freeway, go, exit, and then go down like 2 streets or something like that. We're on the freeway for like 45 minutes or some shit like that, but it's not that bad. But I didn't get to see them actually like blooming. I think they were pink, or they were starting to change. I don't really remember. Actually, it's been I don't remember much about it other than that it was a Sakura. Actually, I might have went in fall and they might have already fallen. Anyway. Well, there are times when I, too, have preferred more sensual pleasures over aesthetic ones, if I'm being honest, but it was a weekday. The cherry blossom viewers still filled the park wherever you turned. We walked along the wide road, absent-mindedly gazing at the beautiful sights. Actually, it's starting to occur to me that it might have been that they were planning on putting in cherry blossom trees, but couldn't because of complications at the time. God, I don't remember. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. I could probably remember if I looked through the pictures of my old phone, but I don't care enough to. God, I don't know why I remembered that, and I'm trying to ignore the sentence in front of me because I recognize one of those words, and I don't want to think about that too much. Let's just take a drink first. Drink taken. God, I really do like Guinness. Okay. That said, you really surprised me there. I never thought you could see Bodox too. And the fact that they're Bodox. Bodox. It's D-A-C-H here. I've always seen it spelled, what is it, B-O-D-O-C-K, I think. God, now I'm second guessing that too. Anyway, they are a monster I've used in D&D a few times. They're really fun. They're really interesting enemies, because of, at least for 5th edition, I don't remember about earlier editions. They have life draining aura type thing, and it's I think it's if you stare at their face and fail the saving throw, you drop to 0 hit points or something like that. It's unfortunately been a bit since I've ran at high enough level where I can use Bodox. Yeah, sneeze. I've been holding in that sneeze since the episode started. Anyway, I'm stalling a lot. Bodox? That's what we call them. It was my grandfather that named them. It comes from some old Scottish legends, I think. Bodoc, huh? I didn't know Bodoc was Scottish. I mean, it sort of makes sense. It seems like at least a vaguely Scottish word, so I don't know. Then again, I know fuck all about the Scottish language, so... My grandfather and me, and there are some others, keep an eye on them. It sounded like she knew more about them than I did. What kind of beings are they? I thought they were monsters or ghosts or something. I can't tell exactly, I suppose, but that's just as true about humans, too. You don't know what humans are either, do you? Like where we came from and where we're heading? You know, where did we come from? Where did we go? Where did we come from? I guess so. Then let me paraphrase. What are they to us? Are they dangerous or harmless? Is it okay to just ignore them? They're dangerous, or at least that's what we think. Bodocs are something akin to Grim Reapers. Grim Reapers? Are you talking about how they possess people, which usually results in someone's death? Yes, exactly. You knew about that? I saw them do it. Yesterday, actually. I didn't want to mention my plane crash, or Madoka. You're right, Bodocs spread death. And we're exterminating them. You are? Are you the heroes I've been hearing about? Huh? No, do you know Yatsuka Hidenori? Never heard of him. I nodded. Sorry. So you said you were exterminating them? Yes. No. She shrugged her shoulders. We're currently not doing much of that at the moment. She continued in a somewhat troubled tone as I cocked my head. There was some disagreements among us. Hi, Kat. Right. She mentioned there were more besides her grandfather. I didn't pry any further and shifted my thoughts to the sights we saw earlier. The restaurant was packed with Bodocs. In other words, I addressed her in a somewhat anxious tone. If you can kill them, then shouldn't we do something about that restaurant? It didn't look good. I'm gonna make a guess here and guess that she probably can't kill them, can she? Kirito looked troubled. I think they're a different type. What? There are 2 types of Bodox as far as I know, but we can only deal with one of them at a time. I hesitated to call them outright dangerous, not because they were beings that were being surpassed I hesitated to call them outright dangerous, not because they're beings that surpassed our understanding, but rather, death isn't always a bad thing. What do you mean? Destiny. Everyone dies sooner or later, so Grim Reapers aren't necessarily evil. They're no different from birds chirping as the sun rises. It doesn't make sense to take it out on them if you don't like the sun, right? This is kind of similar to that. No way. I must have made quite a dreadful face since Kirito gave me a consoling smile. Don't worry, their mere presence doesn't mean they're going to possess someone. But given there were so many inside the restaurant, it's possible that... I don't think life and death are decided merely by fate. That was why we felt regret, because you can't undo the past. As such, the least I could do was find the culprit, and... yeah. Kirito agreed with a sigh. Humans can fight natural disasters. It probably wouldn't hurt to manage the Bodoc population either. But the amount of them in this town is unnatural. That said, we know the reason for it and how to solve it. I wanted to ask her to elaborate, but I didn't want to interrupt her. The reason they started increasing was a mystery to me for a long time. If we get rid of one type of Bodox, the other will start decreasing in numbers too. But Sakura no Mori Dreamers is not functioning properly right now. Sakura no Mori Dreamers? What's that? Name drop. She blushed for some reason. It was the first time I saw her do that. No, we just kind of decided on that name in the spur of the moment. It seemed she was a bit embarrassed about the name. The conversation broke off and we quietly walked beside each other for a while. I could hear the people in the park laughing. It made me realize just how out of this world our conversation really was. There's something I'd like to know. Yeah? Do you have any conditions for joining your team? I want to join. Really? Yeah. That's great. To tell the truth, I was just thinking of a way to invite you. It really makes me happy to have you volunteer instead. In other words, you don't really have any conditions? We do, but you've already cleared them. Ever since I sneezed, now my nose won't stop running. Bleh, I hate that. Being able to see Bodox, that's the most important one. Oh, I'm really so happy now. It seemed like that struck a chord with her. I couldn't say I disliked having someone celebrate me to this extent. I was looking for potential comrades, but since that depended on a natural aptitude, almost no one could see them. But you're perfect. Me? I'm sure you're exaggerating. You were worried about Tono from the very start. That means you've got a strong sense of justice. Justice? Wasn't that exactly what a hero needed? And I definitely didn't want to become one. I definitely didn't want to become one. My only goal was capturing the bastard that killed Madoka. I don't think I would have approached you solely because you could see them. I was waiting to resume operations for the longest time, but compatibility is the one thing that's vital for a good team. Kirito's excitement seemed to make her unusually talkative. and she even squeezed down on my hand as she talked. So, by the way, I was starting to feel my face get a little warm at this point. What? I'm sorry, I totally forgot myself. I silently shook my head. Kirito began fanning herself. It was the first time I saw her use the fan for its designed purpose. We began walking in silence again. Her neck was still a little flushed. Anyway, about what we're gonna do from now on. Yeah? Kirito finally put her fan away. For starters, I think I should introduce you to my Grandpa, my grandfather and Mahoro. You have time tonight? I nodded. In that case, can you come over to my home? I'll explain the rest to you there. Got it. I wrote down her address and we agreed on a time. But it's pretty far. My house is at the very edge of town, though Mahoro lives in the area too. That meant she probably lived around close to the mountains. That was quite far from my house. I can take my bike. Bicycle? My house is quite uphill. That's fine. But do you have anywhere I can leave it? I suppose you can't just leave it lying on the road. That wasn't exactly what I was worried about, but I gave her a vague nod. You've got a yard. I'm pretty sure there's enough space for you to park it inside. Okay, then I'll come on a bike. Kirito nodded. Anyway, that's about it for now, I suppose. Yeah, you want to go back to Forza? No, I think I should head home. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Bye. And with that, Kirito hurried away. And I am ending the episode. Next time, well, we get to go and meet Kirito, her grandpa, and what was the other name? Mahoro? Something like that? Yeah, that sounds right. So, what are they going to talk about? Well, I hope to find out next time. Well, I hope to see you all there.